Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Horsemen Studios Mythic Legions Illythia Wave, Illythia and Phobos 2-pack. Now before we get into it here, let's first take a look-see at both the front and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, Illythia comes with two sickle swords, which were first introduced in Advent of Decay, if I'm not mistaken. And I always tend to use these with my vampires, so this is awesome for me. That said, one of them's got a peg, one of them's got a hole. Put the two together, and you got a baby. No, I'm just kidding. You get a twin blade of death, a la Darth Maul from Phantom Menace, which is always fun. Needless to say, these are some of my favorite weapons in the line. And then we also get, I can get a grip on them here, two, noticing a pattern here, scale accessories. Or scales. I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation here, but these are of course supposed to represent the scale or scales, whichever you prefer, of famine. They got little chains, and to be honest, the scale part itself looks like a spiked turtle shell to me, but take that for what you will. She can hold these in her hands, obviously, and after seeing all the chains that go on Illythia herself, it would have been nice if Phobos had a chain for the reins, you know what I'm saying? Especially since Aethon, who came with Illythia, had chains for the reins. It would have been consistent, you know? That said, her final accessory, that she holds anyways, is of course the infamous Soul Spiller. I have to apologize for a certain amount of ignorance on my part. I always thought this was supposed to be a sword. Yeah, I remember reading, what was it, the bio for the Soul Spiller wave, actually. That group of characters went to seek out and I think destroy the Soul Spiller sword, I thought. But I guess they just called it the Sword Spiller. They did not call it a sword. I just realized I said Sword Spiller and not Soul Spiller. Ah, boy. This is going to be a long one, guys. Better grab some popcorn and a beverage. That said, this too has the little spiked turtle shell scale thingies on it, and more chains, and crazy little dragons. A lot going on with this figure. I don't know how I'm going to review it in less than 20 minutes. Setting that down. Her final accessory, however, is this scarf thingy, which is kind of just cinched around her in the package, so I just took it off. For right now. It doesn't really have a home, so I'm just going to leave it off to the side so it stays out of the way. That said, speaking of getting stuff out of the way, let's move Phobos here. And we'll take a closer look at our horsemen, or horsewomen in this case, of Famine Illythia. And I gotta tell you, is this going to make my top 10 figures of the year? Let's just get that out of the way. I don't know. From a sculpt and paint standpoint, it definitely deserves to be on there. But as far as an overall fun factor goes, she's very fidgety because she's got a lot going on. This figure, more or less, unlike Illythia, is meant to be posed and kind of left alone. It's not fragile or anything, but you can't really play with it like you can some other Mythic Legion. She's just got a whole heck of a lot going on, and that kind of hinders the fun factor, at least for me. Some of you guys might be able to tolerate that, given the fact that my patience was wearing down to that of a thread or a piece of dental floss, whichever you prefer. As far as getting a hold of this figure, because we have been waiting almost 2 years now, I'm not very patient when it comes to posing it, so take that for what it's worth. But as far as looks go, she's definitely got it all going on. She is nuts. Very Hindu inspired as well. I love the Hindu goddess look, right down to the shape of her. The heck is that? Is this a helmet? Is this a hat? It looks like a Creator or Sepultura album cover. Arise and Phantom Antichrist are the two that come to mind, with just all the crazy stuff going on. It looks like she is wearing the apocalypse on her head, and this skeleton is like the victorious one once all is said and done. And he is also holding 2 scales, and this skeleton is also PVC, so it's flexible, so it won't break. That said, I hope this doesn't warp over time. That would kind of suck. So I'm going to have to put her somewhere safe so the arms don't get jacked up on this. But you can see the big spinal cord going up the middle there to the skeleton. On the back, there's all kinds of worms and serpents and whatnot, and horns, and absolute insanity. There's even more going on down here towards her forehead there. She's got her giant ears with the gauges in them, which is also very Indian, Hindu inspired. And what is it? Illythia had those as well, to my understanding. Very interesting design choice, but I'm here for it. She, of course, has freaking 4 arms on her back, which are all fully articulated, by the way. They have the hinge swivel in the... Is that a shoulder? I guess it is. In the shoulder there. They have a hinge swivel at the elbow. And a hinge swivel at the wrist. Nice tight joints. Albeit this one's a little loose on mine, but I might need to push that in some more. I don't know. But either way, this is a really solid piece. And for the most part, it stays on mine. It hasn't fallen off yet. Fingers crossed it stays that way. And going down to her belt here, she's got more crazy kind of insectoid creatures and serpent creatures and creepy crawly creatures, and it's just creatures everywhere on this thing. It's ridiculous. And then she has the soft goods, wired soft goods, nice silk material, courtesy of Mr. C. Jessom and company, I believe. I don't think it's just him. But I really like this. Granted, I did a little flip-de-dipty with mine. I flipped some stuff around. Did the little whoop-de-doo. I put this skirt piece, this kind of loincloth piece on top, and then I put these on the sides. It allows the legs to move a little better, since this can move out of the way even more. So that's why I did that. You don't have to. You probably get close to the same without it, but it just makes things a little easier. But this is all wired. You can pose it however you want. You can have it blowing in the breeze if you want. You can have it relaxing if you want. It's pretty self-explanatory. Then as far as her legs and arms go, I think it's the same kind of armor we've seen in this line since Advent of Decay. Her torso is different. Nothing really crazy going on there, but her torso is new. I don't think that's reused from anybody. Then she does have a little necklace around her neck, which is a separate piece, so you can take that off if you want. But as far as articulation goes, the head can't really move at all. She's got this big head of hair here, kind of hinders that, and it does cinch around the back piece, so if you move her head too much, you're probably going to knock that off, so I advise not doing that. We already talked about the arms, so we'll just skip over that. Her regular arms do have all the same articulation that we're used to seeing in this line, which is awesome. So you can move out, down, forward and back. She's got the hinge swivel elbow with the gauntlet swivel and the hinge swivel wrists without the correct hand for holding weapons, but I'll give 4 Horsemen a pass because this figure looks so good it doesn't matter. She does have a diaphragm joint. I will say I think they need to tighten these up a little bit, at least the top joint. So on mine it's a little loosey-goosey. You can see it kind of bobbling around there, but she does have a lot of upper body weight going on, but you can get some range out of that. And she can also fall apart. So, yeah. Word of tongue, her waist is very fidgety. at least for me. And I don't know why that fell off, honestly. I haven't moved it too much. I might have warped the hole a bit trying to pose her for the final thought shot, because it doesn't really snap in right now. But she does have a swivel at the waist. Yeah, that's not pegging in all the way for some reason. I don't know what's up with that. Hopefully I can figure that out. Well, it's on there more. So, hopefully that doesn't happen again, because that was embarrassing. That said, she does have a waist swivel, you just can't really use it. And lifting her skirt up here, you can see that, well, if there's one thing the Horsemen kind of screwed up on, is that Illythia here has no ass. All Mythic Legion's female figures actually have no ass. So, yeah. Take that for what it's worth. Mythic Legion's female figures have no ass. But either way, her hips can kick out to the side, back down. It's got a thigh cut there. Single knee, which is, well, it was a lot tighter before, but I've gotten it to move a little easier since. She's got a swivel at the knee below the hinge. And then she has an ankle hinge with swivel and a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet, which, if you're going to be posing her off the horse, I advise you use a stand. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can cinch this back up. Let me actually pop the head off here without losing the necklace. Let's see if we can get that pop of satisfaction. We're doing it live, because I don't know why it's doing that, because it hasn't before. There. I know it's on now. So, can't say I've ever taken one of these apart on cam, but you totally can. You can take them apart at the waist, the arms, the gauntlets, the hands, the hips, the thighs, the knees, the feet. The feet come off the ball hinges, actually. You can even pop her apart at the midsection here. So, in case you were wondering how modular this thing was, it is very much so. With a little bit of elbow grease, you could probably pop the lower arms off too, but I'm not going to do that. There are plenty of videos on the YouTube showcasing all the modular abilities of these figures. You don't need me to do that. Do ya? Do you really need me to do that? I'm not going to do it with this one because there's way too much going on. There you go. There she is in all of her wickedness. Illythia, the Horseman of Famine. Moving her out the way. Bring in Phobos here. And in true Overlord fashion, my Phobos is unfortunately missing a piece. He is missing one of the little loop-de-loops on his saddle. Now, I'm not sure if this is a new saddle just for him or her. I'm not sure what this fella is. But I don't really see a spot for another loop-de-loop on here. So if anyone knows if it's only supposed to have 3 or 4, please let me know in the comments. Because I already sent 4 Horsemen an email about it. And I'm waiting to hear back at this current time. That said, Phobos is just like the other horse I looked at last year, Balius, as well as Erithir's horse, Aethon. Utilizes a lot of the same parts. More so with Balius than Aethon, because Aethon had like the flamin' bulky hooved feet. This guy has the slender hooved feet. I know it's kind of hard to see on my black background, I apologize, but it's a skeleton horse. And if NECA ever gets that Warduk figure out, we might have a nightmare for him to ride. I mean, this isn't exact, but it's close. That said, I'm not sure which is my favorite of the horses yet. I do like Erithir more as a figure, but I might like Phobos more as a horse. But as far as articulation goes, the horses are pretty self-explanatory. You got a double ball peg situation here in the neck. He actually has one of those neck sleeve things in there, so it's a lot tighter than normal. That's why you hear all the squeaking. And then he has it also in the neck, right there. You can move that all around. The saddle, the little stirrups here can rotate, as well as these little saddle bag pieces. They can also rotate. You can, of course, take this bag off the back. I'm not going to do that, but you can do it. And it is tighter than it used to be, so thank you, Horsemen, for fixing that. Of course, you could strip this guy down and all that stuff. I'm not going to do that, though. His legs can kick forward, as well as back. They do rotate here. They also have a hinge here at this first knee, as well as a swivel. And then he has the same thing at the foot, or the hoof. You can hinge and swivel that as well. I can't really show you that because the knees are a little bit loose on mine, so it won't allow me to do that without rotating the whole lower leg. That said, one thing to note, my front leg was actually on backwards, which is kind of hilarious, but luckily all the right pieces were there, so I was able to just flip it around. That said, the hips can kick out a little bit. They can move back, forward. It's got a knee hinge there with rotation here. And then he has a secondary knee, which bends forward right there, which also has a knee hinge or swivel. Then he also has a hinge and swivel at the hooves on the back legs, but again, hard to show you that because the midsection here is a little bit loose. Not loose in a bad way, but looser than the hoof swivel there. That said, he also has a hinge and swivel tail. Or she. Again, I'm not entirely sure. But that's Phobos. A very ring-wraith looking horse. Very much reminds me of the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings, which is awesome because Ralph Bakshi is awesome. If you don't think he is, then I'm sorry. But I love this piece. I think this is awesome. Very nice addition to the line. And it's nice to have more horses, you know, more unique horses. But in a nutshell, that is Illythia and Phobos, man. Do I even need to tell you how good this is? I mean, I technically just did. But you either already bought this and are waiting on it, or you're going to buy it. Because look at this damn thing. It's freaking amazing. It's Mythic Legions, though, so is that really a surprise? With all that being said, stop jibber-jabbering and taking figures apart and whatnot, and move on to some size comparisons. First up, here is Illythia next to another member of her brood. It is Illythia's brood, after all. Baron Voliger 2.0, and don't worry, we will be taking a look at him very soon, so stay tuned for that. And then we also have the previous Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the big bad himself, Illythia, the Horseman of War. So at this current time we have War, Famine, and I believe Poxus is Pestilence and Plague, if I'm not mistaken. So we should have him about, I would say about this time next year, maybe. And of course Necronominus, the Horseman of Death, will be revealed at this year's Legions Con. So very much looking forward to that. Cannot wait to have all four horsemen together, and I'll be sure to do a video on that when the time comes. Next up, here is Phobos alongside the only other horses we've gotten in the Mythic Legions line thus far. I know one just went up for pre-order not too long ago in All-Stars 5+, but for right now, we have Aethon, who belongs to the mighty Illythia, big bad himself, as well as Balius, who, I don't know about you guys, but I use him with Magnus. I think he looks good with Magnus, that, and I don't have Hadriana, so it is what it is. That said, I don't think an evil vampire skeleton horse will make for a nice addition to the Overlord Zoo. I'm worried about her / him, again, I do not know which, taking out some of the other exhibits, but it's cool to have nonetheless. Definitely one of my favorites of the horses we've gotten anyways. And last but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, Brother Mandibulus from Advent of Decay, and Lemon Spawn, who's not towering over anyone today because, well, if you haven't noticed, not only is he shorter than Illythia because of her big fancy hat, he's no vampire horse either. So with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and what exactly do you guys need me to tell you that you don't already know? This is another awesome addition to an even more awesome line. Because if there's one thing the Mythic Legions line excels at, it's being awesome. Because at the end of the day, you either have this on pre-order and are still waiting for it, already have it and are just curious of my thoughts on it, which, thanks by the way, always appreciated, or you're eventually gonna buy it. Because at the end of the day, I don't need to tell you how awesome this thing is. You already freaking know. Because, again, Mythic Legions excels at being worth what they cost, being worth the wait, albeit a long wait for this one, almost 2 years depending on when you placed your pre-order, and the customer service, in case there is an issue, like in my case, I do need to get an extra little piece for mine, is top-notch. And almost every single issue gets resolved in a reasonable amount of time. So anyone who's not on board with Mythic Legions, you either don't have the money for it, which is justifiable. I totally understand that. You just don't want to go down that rabbit hole because, let me tell you what, son, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole that I pray for those who are just getting into this line to crawl in, and you're going to get lost real quick. Or you're just not into the genre. I mean, fantasy is a pretty niche thing, you know. I like a lot of stuff, so of course I gravitate towards it. I even backed their Cosmic Legions line, so we'll see how those turn out. But anyone who's not into this line and wants something worthy to add to their collections, please, for the love of all that is holy, get into this line. It is totally worth it. You will not be disappointed. And this is one heck of a piece to start with. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions, as well as the Mythic Legions Cabal over on Facebook. Be a part of the community, but as always, keep comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when you sat through this whole review, but at the end of the day, you really didn't need to, because I don't need to tell you how great this line is. It just is. Albeit, mine's still missing a piece, because of course it is. It's mine after all. So with that being said, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.